Hello. The volume might end up being a bit low on this one again, just because, I don't know, for whatever reason, the app I was using to clean up the sound seems to either not work right now, or maybe I've got too many videos and it's making it not work properly, whatever. Anyway, I've sent an email to the Mistress of Sound, so she will sort it out for me at some point and let me know what I need to do. In the meantime, I had quite a few requests for a rant, or the next video anyway, to be on about martial arts and stuff like that. But I've already done a video on that. It's video number 6. And, I can give you an overview of martial arts stuff, but I'm 50 years old now. So, for me to train regularly in martial arts, it's not that I wouldn't do it. I'd love to be able to train regularly. It's just my life at the moment, as I've got a new baby. I've got some interesting sort of work which requires me to, meet with people, different places, different times. It's basically PR type thing. And, it doesn't allow really for the time that I used to have to dedicate to training. Also because, generally would be in the evening, and those times are times that I would frankly rather spend with my kids and my wife. So there's that. And, the fact that your body doesn't heal as quickly or whatever, when you're in your 50s as opposed to when you're in your 20s, that, that's a fact, but that's not necessarily anything that concerns me very much. Also because if you've been doing martial arts all your life, like I have, the 20-year-old that's all big and strong and whatever, he isn't really going to get to touch you very much unless you let him, if you know what you're doing. And it's true, injuries take longer to heal and so on. And, there's a limit for all of us. So it's not like you're not going to get hurt. You would. And, an injury now of, let's say, a serious injury now is also has a lot more impact on your life because, again, my 50s, it would not just take longer, but it would keep me from other duties, work or family and stuff. So there's a higher risk to it. So why even do martial arts, right? A lot of people don't. For me, it was kind of a given. My father was a third Dan when I was born, and I've basically been doing some kind of martial arts since I could walk, pretty much. On and off. I had years where I didn't train regularly or whatever, but for the most part, throughout my life, there's probably like 45. Call it about, let's say 40 to be on the safe side. It's probably a bit more than that, but there's 40 years during which I've been training out of my 50 years. There was a period of a few years, a couple of years here and there where I didn't train because I was traveling all over the place and I was moving around. So I wasn't training regularly, but wherever I ended up, I tried to train. I used to travel with my gi and my belt with me, and wherever I was, I'd look for a dojo and just go there and train. And now in traditional karate, when you end up in a new dojo, they'll try and bang you a little bit just to put you in your place. So it was good training because you go in there and they'd send a couple of guys headhunting you and whatever, and if you can survive that and you just keep yourself comfortable and whatever, then it's cool. Keep your cool, don't lose your shit, and don't get banged. That's the challenge, right? So it wasn't regular training, but it was still there. But all told, I think that was probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years of those 40 years. If I pack it all together, maybe there was 5 years where I wasn't training or something. And I haven't trained regularly now for a few years. Just again, life situation. I've been 2016 I was all over the place. I was literally living in 3 different countries at once at times. It was just never mind training, I didn't even know which fucking time zone I was in most of the time. So it's an odd situation, but the thing about why martial arts, well, because it's good for you. If you're a man, it's good for you. It's good for you to do some martial arts. It doesn't matter which one, it's like people will talk. I do absolutely believe that Systema done properly is absolutely the most effective martial arts, bar none, that I've ever come across. But there's few and far between trainers of Systema. And also, if you want to know all those details, that's why I write books. That's the books that I write that are nonfiction. It's like to get a whole chunk of information that I know a lot about and put it out there so that I don't have to repeat the same shit every time. That's pretty much why I wrote the Systema book. Yes, it's expensive, but, I spent years of my life training, put it pretty much all in one book, and done some 40 videos that go with the book once you get the book. So it is what it is. If you really are interested in that thing, $80 or whatever it is, sometimes Amazon changes the price and lowers it or whatever. So, it is what it is. If you're really interested in that stuff, it's not a huge sum of money for a book. And I've put pretty much everything that is relevant in there. There would be possibly an advanced book of Systema I could write, which would be much shorter, but it would be almost meaningless to most people because it would deal with concepts that the average martial artist actually doesn't understand, doesn't know anything about, and would probably think is bullshit. So the other thing about martial arts is that it invites the largest number of theoretical idiots on the planet. And I include other martial artists. It includes people that, this is the best martial art, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm the better fighter, I could beat you up. It's just such a fucking ego trip. It's just ridiculous. And mostly because you have to understand that people who start martial arts, who do martial arts, are on some level, they're insecure. That's why they started, because they're scared, or they want to be tougher, or they've been bullied, or they want to be able to beat everybody up, or, it's very primitive sort of a thing. And it's only the guys that have sort of done it enough or gone through it enough. It's like anything, right? If you want to be a real painter and then you start painting and then you paint, and after 40 years of painting to you is kind of like breathing. So all the stuff that, some new painter comes up and says, but do you use azure or indigo blue for the sky? You're like, use whatever the fuck you want, right? Depends what painting you're doing. It's like me. People are like, oh, but is karate better than jiu-jitsu? Jiu-jitsu better than Krav Maga? Is Krav Maga, is Systema really fake? Or it's just a fat man doing Systema. Whatever, man. I don't give a shit, right? And again, it's not, martial arts, it continually evolves like anything, like any skill. You're not going to be interested in the same things about skiing after 30 years of skiing than you were in your first 2 months of skiing. And even if you did go back to the very beginning, you would see it in a completely different light. So for me, the things that interest me about martial arts now are absolutely nothing to do with like testing myself against somebody else or whatever. I've done all that shit. I've done all the competitions to death. I've done the sparring. I've done the, training, the fighting, all that shit. That's not interesting to me anymore. What's interesting to me is the edge stuff of martial arts. So like, when I was in Indiana, like, I can't remember what it was. I did like a mini almost demonstration. It wasn't filmed, but with Immortal Nameless Bear. He was just sitting there and I was trying to explain a concept, which, I don't know, it'll come to me. I don't remember what it was. And I said, look, but it's like this, and I just kept like flicking my punch at Nameless Bear and just kind of like just touching his skin, but not actually denting him. But, I can go from far, I can go from near, I can go. And and to his credit, he didn't flinch. He just stood there and he didn't know what the hell I was doing. And, if you just do that and you keep doing that, and you do that for 10,000 times, then your sensitivity to that guy's position becomes so that I can do it even without watching him. I can look somewhere else and I'm still not going to knock him and I'm not going to miss him. And on his side, receiving that and sort of, and then I can change it or I can mix it up a little bit. So, it does tap him a bit. It doesn't. Then he can start to pick up, because it's not hard enough to hurt or whatever. It's just like give you a little feedback. Then after a while, he starts to understand when a movement is actually real or not. And it's nothing you can do with your eyes. You have to feel it, you know? So this kind of thing where you can perceive the movement without necessarily your eyes being particularly involved, but it's a sensation, it's an extension of your magnetic field or whatever it is, and getting that timing to be perfectly correct so that you can just do, you know, and transmit nothing before, so there's no information, so that even a trained martial artist can't feel it coming, can't see it coming. And I've discussed this before about the stuff that, you know, if you're good at Systema, you can do that stuff. But there's few and far between teachers of you know, good teachers of Systema. Everybody is now a guru. Everybody's, you know, the guys that I started training with, they were proper serious guys. And they'd already like watered everything down quite a lot in order to make it more appealing to normal human beings, you know. But it was still real. Like now, it's everybody and their dog is doing Systema and mixed martial arts, and everybody's a guru and everybody knows everything. So it's like, you know, I have no interest in that world whatsoever. You know, it's like I would train with my friends that I know that know what the hell they're doing, and then we could focus on one thing. The training that would interest me now would probably seem absurdly boring to anyone that thinks, you know, hey, yeah, I mean, for me, it would be nice to train, and I can't even in England because, you know, guns are not here, but it would be nice to train guns, knives, that sort of thing, like movement with a gun, movement with a gun, movement with a gun, draw, fire, draw, fire, draw, fire, draw, fire, move, touch, take the gun away, disarm, disarm, reload, disarm, reload, reload, touch, shoot. You know, it's a kind of training that looks pointless to most martial artists. They wouldn't understand what the hell you're doing. The same like with the knife training, you know, like when I did the knife training, you play with the knife a lot. You touch the knife, you live with the knife, you move with the knife, you walk with the knife, you eat with the knife, you do everything with the knife. It was the same when I was training, you know, when I was a bodyguard. I didn't know anything about Systema, but instinctively, whatever, my training to use the gun because of other martial arts, because you have to also understand any martial art, at the end of the day, they confluence to a peak. When you reach the peak of any martial art, there's a lot of similarities there because the truth is one, and what works is one, you know. So whether you come at it from karate, from jiu-jitsu, your path might be different. But when you're actually at the top of the mountain, it's all looking pretty much the same there. So, you know, for example, the training that I did with my firearm when I was a bodyguard, it was every day. You know, I moved with it, I walked with it, I ate with it, I slept with it, and next to me, you know, the gun became part of me, and drawing and firing just became another action. Like now, I'm drinking coffee, and they, you know, there is also a Russian saying, right? They train you like. Because you have to understand, the original training of Systema was very brutal. You know, it included knife shooting, stabbing, all sorts. You know, and some of the questions from the Russian guys were like, "Yeah, but you know, I won't say the names, but whatever. I'll just say Ivan. But Ivan, when your knife gets stuck in the collarbone of enemy, how you cut towards the jugular or you go down to heart? Which works better?" You know? It's like these were not like normal people, right? So you got to understand that if you're training that sort of thing, it's completely different from, you know, you go to the gym and you feel strong and you feel tough and you do your push-ups, and it's a different mentality. And as a 50-year-old that's done all that stuff, I'm not interested in the gym training anymore. I don't care. You know, what I'm interested in would be, okay, I'm deep asleep and 3 guys break into the house and I hear a noise. Now what? And, you know, I've thought that way since I was a kid. So there's a whole set of routines that are already in my head and whatever. But it'd be interesting to know, you know, the complete unknown, the complete like weirdness. Oh, okay, how would I take that out? How would I do that? And I've had those kind of experiences, where you get attacked or whatever. And I think one of the weirdest situations that happened to me was I was at home. My daughter had just been born. She was a few months old. And my wife at the time used to get up quite early. When the baby woke up, she woke up and, breastfed and then started sort of breakfast or whatever. Now, unbeknownst to any of us, and we figured all this out later, this guy had broken into the house when she got up to get the baby from the baby's room, which was next to ours. This guy obviously hid. There was a long corridor in the entrance of this house, and he hid behind the baby's buggy in that long corridor. And it's dark. It was like 4 or 5 in the morning or something. So, she just picked up the baby. She's not going to walk down the corridor, probably doesn't even look at it. And even if she glanced at it, he was just there. And then she put the baby on the couch where she would usually be in the morning, because she didn't know how to roll around yet, so she would like put pillows and stuff down the side so she can't roll off, and she put it in the couch, and she was into the open plan kitchen next door, and she left her phone next to the baby on the couch. And this guy came out of the corridor into the lounge where she was. Obviously he'd opened the door, and I'll tell you that why. He opened the door to get into the lounge, got into the lounge, grabbed their phone, jumped over the couch and out the back door. And I was still asleep, right? Because I was in bed. She used to get up first, and I used to work all sorts of hours and long hours and stuff. So in the weekend, which was a weekend, I'd used to sleep in a bit because I was always up early and stuff. And that was kind of the routine. And I just heard her shout my name, say, "Giuseppe, there's somebody in the house." I remember hearing that. Then I remember kind of hearing that. I don't know how I got from the bed where I was sleeping into the lounge. I have no idea, no recollection, because the first recollection I have is of me pushing open the door of the lounge. Okay, so I went from the bed to the door of the lounge. I must have hit something on the way, probably the door of the bedroom, because it was like a tight little space. Because I had a bump on my knee that injured the cartilage, and I had like almost like an extra knuckle on my knee for like about 3 months before it eventually went down. So I hit something hard on the way there. Didn't feel it, wasn't aware of it. My brain switched on when I was pushing open the door, and in my mind, I have no idea why, I had this image that there was 3 guys in there. I thought, oh, there's going to be 3 of them inside the lounge. And I knew where my baby was. Don't ask me how, but I knew where my wife was, that she was on the right-hand side, and the TV on the left. And as I went in, that's the first time consciously in my life that I absolutely knew before the event. It's not something that, shit happens, whatever. Somebody starts shooting at you, drawing fire. That's not premeditated. I wouldn't call this premeditated either, but I certainly had the awareness that whoever is in that room now, I'm not taking prisoners. There's not going to be trying to wrestle them or keep them alive. I'm going to take these guys out as fast and as hard as I can, and there's not going to be survivors in it because my baby's there. And these fucking sick freaks, I don't know what they were there for. I don't know who it was. As I pushed the door open, I knew I'm going to kill people now. And as I pushed the door open, I saw the back door was open. My wife's dead. Baby's on the couch. And she goes, "You went that way." And I started to run there, but because I had this feeling that there was 3 of them, I was like, where the fuck are the other 2? It's like, that guy's out. He's no more a threat to my child and wife. I said, "How many of them are there?" And she looked at me confused. And I'm like, "How many of them are there?" And she goes, I don't know. So I quickly searched the house before trying to chase this guy, because the worst thing is I ran after this guy and there's 2 more of them inside the house hiding somewhere. So I did that, and of course he got away, but which is probably a good thing, because honestly, even if I'd caught him 20 meters away from the house, I don't know that I wouldn't have fucking ended him right there. And, actually when the cops came and they asked me "Oh, what happened?" I said, "Well, look, that's what happened. I pushed in here and the guy had run away, and the cop, for a change, he was actually a cop with a brain, this guy. Very English, but smart man. And I didn't say anything, but I think he figured me out, because when he looked at me, when I said, no, he got away from there, I thought of going after him, but then I thought there might be somebody else in the house. So I didn't, because, they would have been more dangerous if they were here. And he looked at me and he goes, well, it's probably a good thing that there wasn't anybody else in the house and that you didn't catch that man, sir. Because I think otherwise, I have the sense that otherwise I might have to be arresting you right now. And I was like, yeah, maybe, But that was a weird sensation, because I realized in that moment that was the first time that I would have used all the training that I've ever had and every instinct that I've ever got to intentionally wipe out another human being, 1, 10, whatever it was. It wouldn't have made any blind bit of difference. And to be honest, I'm a little bit scared thinking about what would have happened. If there had been people in there, they would have died. I know for a fact they wouldn't have been taken prisoner, because in my mind, even if there was only one guy, I wouldn't know that. Just like I thought there might still be a couple of guys in the house, I'd be like, I'm just getting rid of this guy as quickly as possible in a way that makes absolutely sure that he can't hurt my child. Fuck it. Whatever happens afterwards is irrelevant. It would have been like a 2-second fight. He would have just been dismantled in a way that I've been in plenty of fights, but I've always, with one tiny exception, which I won't get into now, but I've always been very controlled in my fights. I knew what was going on. I know what was happening. I knew whether the guy was armed or not. It was take the guy out, but not destroy him. Not kill him. It was like disarm him, make him ineffective, make him unconscious, make him hurt and broken so he can't do anything anymore. Whatever, get rid of him, but not completely destroy him from existence, which is what I felt like. So. That sort of thing is, I don't know that you can train that one way or the other, because I've seen it. I've seen people that are even technically better than me, and when the shit hits the fan, they're normal people. They don't have that like, I'm going to kill everybody now. It's just not natural for them. And I don't know, maybe you can train it. When I was a little kid, the sight of blood used to make me sick to my stomach. I was like, just used to freak me out. Then I saw so much blood that by the time I was in my teens, it didn't faze me at all. I mean, we used to go hunting, and if an animal wasn't dead right away, to try and put it out of its misery, because the bullets were expensive and difficult to come by, you'd finish it off with an axe. And I remember I used to, these are big animal like hartebeest, wildebeest, or whatever, and I used to try and do it as quickly as possible to make them suffer as little as possible, but they've got really thick skulls. So it takes you a couple of shots to get into the cranium, and then even when I get into it, they're still kicking and moving or whatever. So more than once, when I finished one of these animals off, you just hold it by the horn and like break his head open. And then I'd do that as quickly as possible. And I remember I was about 15 probably, and I'd finished off a hartebeest. And by the time I finished, it was so quick that I had bits of brain and blood and all over myself, and it didn't, I remember thinking, when I was a little kid, this would have freaked me out. I didn't even bother to like clean myself. It was because, we're out in the bush anyways, the water's limited. So it was just like, I just wiped my face and that was that. So maybe it can be trained, I don't know. But if it can be trained, it's not something you can train in a few months or whatever. It's like years of dealing with stuff like that eventually maybe changes you. I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know that this was specifically about martial arts, but I know that people are interested in martial arts. It's just, if you're a young guy, go for it. Doesn't really matter what you do, whether it's boxing, jiu-jitsu, karate, just do something. It's fine. And, I think Systema is the best also because the injuries in Systema are less, and you can probably recover from them quite a lot quicker. But there's very few good Systema trainers. And that's why I wrote the book as well. I wrote the book so that you could train with your friends even if you don't have a teacher. The book is written in a way to teach you, to take you from nothing to like understanding the principles of it, so that you can start training them. The videos are designed to show you some of the exercises so that you can start training your neurology. And then after that, it doesn't really matter, go somewhere. If you can find a place that teaches you some Systema, go for it. If you can't, go learn something else. It's all good, you don't have to be too fancy about it. Just go learn. And the most important thing in martial arts, again, is your mind. It's not necessarily how big you are or whatever. It's your mind. Like, what kind of a mind have you got? Will you keep going when it hurts? Will you get up once you've been knocked down 15 times and you don't have any reason to believe that you won't be knocked down another 15 times? Will you still get up anyway? Will you find a clever way to get around something that you can't defeat directly and yet not give up? That's your mind. It's like your persistence, your ability to carry on and go on, and that's the main thing. So I don't know that I've got a lot of things to tell you in terms of martial arts, other than if I was, let's say, my late teens, early 20s now, I would train in martial arts of some kind, but I would try and learn, more importantly, I would try and learn about tactics, strategy, actual war zone situation, guerrilla warfare, how to survive a war zone. Like, try and imagine that you're now in Yugoslavia in the 90s and you have to survive urban warfare where you don't really know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. There's snipers everywhere. There's guys with tanks. There's guys with knives, and how do you survive that? So yeah, martial arts absolutely comes handy in that sort of situation. But even more importantly is your ability to understand escape routes, to understand food and water resources, to understand how to get your family out of there. Those are things I would focus on more than necessarily how to punch somebody. Don't get me wrong, how to punch somebody is always a useful skill, especially if you have the kind of make friends and influence people attitude that I have to life. It's like, I remember this car sticker that somebody said, "That's yours, that's for you," and it said, you don't need good manners if you've got good reflexes. It's like, yeah. Anyway, so if you I think I went into a bit more details about martial arts in general in video number 6. So if you like it, that's the one to go look at. And I wrote the Systema book, which is all about martial arts for that reason. So pretty much the information is there. And yes, I know there will be a bunch of little martial arts gammas making comments or whatever, but the pit is endlessly large and they end up there very quickly. So, all right. What is it today? Saturday. Have a good Saturday.